I wrote a piece about 6 years ago, headline, When Left-Wing Economists Gruber and Krugman Practice Economics. And Gruber is Jonathan Gruber. That's the one who is the father of Romney Care, a co-father of Obamacare. And Paul Krugman is arguably the most influential economist in the world because he has a regular column in the New York Times, the most influential newspaper in the world. And both of them in the past, citing Economics 101, said minimum wage is a bad idea. Here's what Gruber said, quote, at a lecture that he gave at MIT in 2011, lecture was called Applying Supply and Demand. And about the minimum wage, here's what he said. Let's say the government rolled in and set a minimum wage. Workers want to supply more hours than firms want to hire. You end up with excess supply. And we call that excess supply unemployment. End of quote. He also insisted that a higher wage motivates motivates employers to seek means to automate. Here's what Gruber said, quote, we have a downward sloping demand curve. And why is it downward sloping? Because the higher the wage, the fewer workers a firm wants to hire. It would rather use machines instead. End of quote. But Gruber also made a comment about paid leave.
And the U.S. is the only industrialized nation to not provide federal paid leave.
In 1994, Jonathan Gruber, did I mention he's the father of Romney Care, co-father of Obamacare? In 1994, here is what he wrote, quote, I study several state and federal mandates which stipulated that childbirth be covered comprehensively in health care plans, raising the relative costs of insuring women of childbearing age. I find substantial shifting of the costs of these mandates to the wages of the targeted group. End of quote. In other words, in English, Gruber said that an employer forced to pay for family leave will simply reduce the employee's wages to offset the cost. No net benefit to the employee. And through mandated paid family leave, if that induces more people to take time off, a disproportionately higher percentage of those taking time off will be females. What kind of incentive do you think that creates to hire females? Joe Biden also said that he wants high-quality universal pre-care for every 3- and 4-year-old, no matter what.
We're going to decide what we do in terms of government providing for free education. I wonder whether we'd think, as we did in the 20th century, that 12 years is enough in the 21st century. I doubt it. 12 years is no longer enough today to compete with the rest of the world in the 21st century. That's why my American Families Plan guarantees 4 additional years of public education for every person in America, starting as early as we can. The great universities in this country have conducted studies of the last 10 years. It shows that adding 2 years of universal high-quality preschool for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old, no matter what background they come from, puts them in the position to be able to compete all the way through 12 years.
No, that's not what all the studies show, Mr. President. I'm holding in my baby brown libertarian fingers an article called Evidence Suggests Preschool is a Waste of Time and Money. It's in Business Insider, but inside it, they quote a guy named Russ Whitehurst, who's a senior fellow in economics at the Brookings Institution. If you Google Brookings and Google liberal or center-left, you'll get lots of hits. It is a left-wing think tank, arguably the most prestigious in the country. His report analyzed 4 major studies of the Earned Income Tax Credit refund issued to low-income families based on their levels. Research found that the kids that went to preschool, after a while, the benefits faded, called the washout effect. Here's one from the Brookings Institution. Headline, Does State Pre-K Improve Children's Achievement, by the gentleman I just mentioned, Russ Whitehurst. Quote, there is strong and politically bipartisan push to increase access to government-funded pre-K. This is based on a premise that free and available pre-K is the surest way to provide the opportunity for all children to succeed in school and life, and that it has predictable and cost-effective positive impacts on children's academic success. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Here's the second paragraph. The evidence to support this predicate is weak. There's only one randomized trial of a scaled-up state pre-K program with follow-up to elementary school. Rather than providing an academic boost, so it faded. No correlation between pre-K and later academic achievement. Findings concluded. A guy named Josh Rosemond often writes about families. He's a columnist, public speaker, has a column in approximately 225 newspapers, has authored 15 books on parenting. He wrote a piece called Living with Children. Quote, it has long been known, but only spoken of in hushed tones by university professors, sitting in darkened rooms, that pre-kindergarten Jump Start programs don't work other than to increase teacher employment and give parents the false idea that their kids are on a fast track to certain success. Many years ago, he points out, research psychologist David Elkin, author of The Hurried Child, points out that the gains in pre-K programs that they produce are fleeting. Everything else being equal, by grade 3, children who receive pre-K academic instruction are achieving no better than the kids who did not. And the reason this doesn't work is because of the so-called washout effect. Go back to a home where education is not emphasized, and sooner or later, whatever little spike that you got from Head Start or pre-K goes away. A waste of money. It's about the family.